Parsons here, and today I'm going to be giving you 3 tricks on how to use data validation for everyday real-world life. So over in the H column, I have a list of employees, and what I want to do is I want to create a drop-down list. So instead of typing in everybody's names, I want to be able to create a drop-down list to be able to choose the names, and it would be a heck of a lot easier. And I've done this for many companies, and they look at me like I'm a magician when I do this. So it's very easy to do. Let me show you how, and this is trick number 1. So you're going to come up to your Data tab across the top, and in your Data Tools section, you should see Data Validation. You're going to left-click your mouse once on Data Validation, and your Data Validation box will pop up. Over on the left-hand side here, your Settings tab should be the default that comes up. If not, select it. Where it says Allow, under any value is the default. You want to click the down arrow to the right of it, and you want to choose the word List. Okay, so we're creating a list. Down in the Source category, we're going to select the source. That's the information that you want to put in that drop-down. So in this case, we want the H column here, so we're going to select the H column. But I want you to do is I want you to make sure that you select one cell above it, and I'll show you why in a minute. So we have one blank cell above it, empty, and it tells me now that I have H2 to H15, and I'm going to click OK. It automatically creates that drop-down list, but by default you have a blank cell. If I didn't choose that blank cell above it, Donna P would be the default, and you don't want that. You want to be able to choose whoever is in your categories here, okay? So in order to carry that across to all of my cells, so I'm going to put my mouse down at the bottom right-hand corner where it shows that I'm going to be doing my autofill. I'm going to hold my left mouse button down. I'm going to drag it all the way to the right. Release my mouse. I'm going to come down to the bottom right hand corner, and I'm going to drag it now down so it fills all the rows and columns. And now every time that I select a cell, it will give me a drop down list. So here's my list. I'm going to select Kim for that day in region 2. I'm going to select maybe Donna in this list. I'm going to select Chris, so you can see how easy it is to create a drop-down list. It's super easy. We're going to go on to the next one, which is data validation, restricting input. Okay, tip number 2, invoice numbers and data validation. So this lesson will show you how to restrict invoice numbers, for example, to just 6 characters. I had a customer ask me if I could do this because they had a data entry clerk that was typing in invoice numbers in Excel, and it was always incorrect, meaning they would type in 7 characters or 8 characters, so they really weren't paying attention, and it was getting a little bit tense. So here we go. So we're going to make sure that I left click my mouse in this cell, and we're going to come up to our Data tab across the top. We're going to come over to Data Validation, and I'm going to left click my mouse once on Data Validation. I'm going to come over to my Settings tab on the left hand side, and now under the criteria in Allow, I want text length. Let's take a look at the drop down and why I chose text length. I could have chosen whole number, but if I would have chosen whole number, it would have restricted the invoice numbers to just numbers and not letters. So in this case, if you want to enter in letters and numbers, text length is the best choice here. Data is between, click the down arrow, so all I want is between 6 and 6. I don't want anything other than 6 and 6, so it's between. Minimum 6, maximum 6 in this case. I have input message, I have nothing, and I'll show you that in a minute. In the error alert, I have a stop error saying that please use 6 characters. So in the style, I could choose a warning, which is the triangle. I can choose just a little I, or we can use the stop button. that comes up. In this case, I'm going to choose the stop button. I'm going to click OK. And now when a data entry person types in, for example, 7 characters and not 6, when they press enter on their keyboard, you get an error alert with that stop button saying, please use 6 characters. So whatever you type in that data entry box, will come up as an error. All right. So I'm going to click retry, and it's going to allow me to type in the correct amount. And when I press enter, it inputs it and takes the correct amount. The next variation in the data validation lesson here is now to have an input message. So I'm going to select the cell that I was just in, and I'm going to make sure that there's no data in it. I'm going to come up to the Data tab, and I'm going to come over to Data Validation. I'm going to left click my mouse once, and I'm going to come back over to the settings, and I'm going to keep everything that I just had intact, the text length between 6 and 6. In the input message, I am going to make sure that there's a little checkbox that says show input message when the cell is selected. And in the input message, I am going to type in, please use 6 characters. I'm not going to give it a title. It doesn't need a title. You don't have to do that. And when I click OK, you can see now that because that cell is selected, it gives you a little pop-up box that says, please use 6 characters. When I left click away from it, it goes away. When I left click back in it, it all automatically pops up. So when I still type in 7 characters and press enter on my keyboard, I still get that pop-up that says please use 6 characters and allows me to retry. And when I do 6 characters and I press enter on my keyboard, it goes away. So by putting an input message in, the box will pop up saying use 6 characters automatically. Let's go on to lesson number 3. Okay, the next tip is criteria is going to be the whole number. So for example, if the numbers can only be between 0 and 10. So I'm going to left click my mouse where I want that criteria to be. I'm going to come up to my Data tab again. I'm going to come back over to Data Validation and left click my mouse once. I'm going to come back over to the Settings tab, and now in the Allow criteria, I want whole number at this point, and I want it between a certain value. The value is between 0 and max 10. So for example, if I'm doing a rating system between 0 and 10, I don't want somebody to put in 11. I'm going to click OK, and when I type in, for example, 11, it's going to give me a pop-up box that says this value doesn't match the data validation restriction defined for this cell. Retry, and it'll allow you to retype it in again. Okay, so let's just say I'm going to press 10, and there you go. So any number between 0 and 10 is okay. If we wanted to change our data validation error message, you could put an error message, an input message that says it must be between 0 and 10. And when I do, just like the last lesson, you get a pop-up box that says must be between 0 and 10. We can also do the error alert and do the same thing. We can say error instead of that input message. And we can say the same thing, must be between 0 and 10. And we're going to put a stop in, and instead of a warning or an information, we're going to do a stop. And I'm going to click OK. So if I typed in 11 here, you get the input message that says must be between 0 and 10. So it allows you to customize the input messages depending upon the criteria, what you want to be entered into that cell. Please subscribe, and thank you for your time.